It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this, the 7th day of August, 2021. Coming to you from Bedford County, Virginia, Central Virginia area. It's a kind of a rainy day here today. A couple announcements to make before we get to our guest for today. Like I said yesterday, there will be no live show on Monday. It will be taped. It will go on the air at 11 o'clock. And we will have a special guest, Sarah Pantry, who is from South Wales and just off the Regal Princess. So that will be available for you guys at 11 o'clock on Monday. Tomorrow on the Cruise Amigos show at 2 o'clock my time, Melissa McCormick Davis will join us, as well as Cruise Amigo Martin, who is both will be on the Virgin Voyages Scarlet Lady. So with no further ado, we do have a special guest this morning, and Chillie Chats welcomes Brandon, the weekend cruiser. How you doing, Brandon?
Hey, Chillie. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. All right. You are on board the Freedom of the Seas, which is has a marvelous signal, by the way. Are you at sea or in port?
I am in port, and I'm cheating a little bit there. So one thing that I realized was that I wanted a little bit stronger reception when I was on the ship. So I did finally break down, and I bought a Bahama SIM card. So I am cheating a little bit there on today's live stream. Okay. Otherwise, it probably would not be this clear. Yeah,
well, it's excellent. So that's why. Okay, you're, by the way, everybody that wants to know, Brandon's YouTube channel is Weekend Cruiser, and you put up an interesting piece recently on the 5 reasons you think weekend cruises are the best. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, so I, fell in love with cruising many years ago and very quickly realized that I wanted to do it more often. So I was flying down. I was in Boston for 11 years, grew up in North Carolina, actually, eastern part of the state, moved to Boston after college, stayed there for 11 years. And throughout the time with the cold winters, the snow, a lot of cruises. And so I was flying back and forth all the time to Boston. For all of you that know, that love to go on cruises, flights can get pricey. They take up time. There's things that can go wrong. And so I made the decision that for me to cruise more, and, I wanted to be down in South Florida. So I did relocate down to South Florida. I still work full time, but I did, find that I could do a weekend cruise and I don't have to use any vacation time. My company is very fortunate to where they don't care where I am on Saturdays and Sundays. And so the weekend cruise really provides the ability to get on the cruise ship without taking any vacation time. And I go about every week at this point, Chillie. I really enjoy it. Even though it is a quick getaway, it still is that break from the daily grind. You get out here, enjoy, relax. You see Nassau, Coco Cay, Royal Caribbean's private island, and it is a really great time.
Is Freedom of the Seas the only ship you sail on?
It depends. So if I am actually using some of those precious vacation days, I will go on other ships. I have a cruise on the Adventure of the Seas coming up on September 4th. So I'm going to go over there and use a few vacation days out of Nassau, Bahamas is where it's leaving. Interestingly, it's going to go to the same ports, with the addition of Cozumel thrown in there. But I do go on more. I love seeing the world as well, but that requires some of those vacation days. But majority of the time, I would say 3 out of 4 weeks, if not more these days, I am on the Freedom of the Seas on the weekend.
All right, we're used to booking longer cruises. Most of my audience books, 7 days and up. But when you're doing this and you're going strictly for the weekend cruises, how far in advance do you have to stay on keeping bookings? Or do you go for a short term, next weekend I can get a deal or something like that?
Great question that's out there. And, one thing that I'll say is always travel agent to help you out with some of those questions. But pre-COVID, it was much different. Pre-COVID, the Navigator of the Seas, which was Royal Caribbean's 3-night cruise that was running out of Fort Lauderdale, the Marin of the Seas running out of Port Canaveral on the 3-night sailings, they were all sold out, Chillie. There was no way to get a last-minute deal, let alone a last-minute seat on the ship. They were sold out. So post-COVID, it's going to be really interesting to see how the algorithm works. They did up the capacity most recently for the August 2nd sailing. Before that, the ship started on July 2nd, the Freedom of the Seas, and it was running about 700 to 800 people. Today, going into August, it's running about 16 to 1,700 people. But even as of 3 days before this sailing, there were still seats available on this ship. So you can find, I would say, compared to pre-COVID, you can still find a good deal. It's still cheaper than what it was pre-COVID, but it's still not as cheap as it possibly could be. October remains the best time to go. Of course, it's hurricane season. Kids are in school. But if you're looking for the best deal for that weekend cruise, always look towards when nobody else wants to go, and that's going to be in October.
All right. Of course, I'm a big fat guy, so food is always important to me. You're on this ship on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Do you eat main dining room? Do you go specialty restaurants? I know Freedom has got lovely specialty restaurants, which I'm a big fan of the main dining room. So what do you do?
So if you like the main dining room, you're going to be in luck for the Freedom of the Seas because the Windjammer is closed at night. So with the capacity on the ship being reduced, the Windjammer, the buffet for Royal, has limited operating hours. So when it's in Coco Cay, their private island, it's only open for about an hour to an hour and a half. In Nassau, it's going to be open for much longer. But in the evenings, your main dining room is closed, and the main dining room is also closed for lunch. So Windjammer is closed for the evening. You can go to the main dining room for your evening meals. You can also go to Windjammer for lunch, but not the main dining room. So they flip it that way. When the capacity gets a little bit higher, then they'll start expanding the Windjammer hours. But for right now, there's just not enough people on the ship to keep it going. But there are lots of specialty restaurants here. If I have a group of friends coming with me or, there's a big celebration or something, we will get the dining package. So on a 3-night cruise, you can really do some damage with the dining package. Discounted, it goes for about $78 is what you're looking at, which does include Chops, Giovanni's Table, which is the Italian restaurant. You've got Izumi, so it's going to give you, it is a sushi hibachi place. If you get the sushi, you'll have a certain dollar amount off, which is more than enough. You've also got Johnny Rockets and Playmakers, which I think surprises most people when they go and eat at Playmakers. The food in there is also fantastic. So you can eat at different specialty restaurant, lunch and dinner every single night.
The entertainment on board, it stays the same all the time?
It does. So I'll say that's one of the downfalls of coming to the same ship all the time. And so for your Freedom of the Seas, the Freedom class, you have the ice rink, which is here in Studio B. So they do have the same show, and they have Once Upon a Time is playing in the main theater here. And that's normal for any ship that's out there that they can come and install a show for probably 6 months at a time. The difference now post-COVID is that those headliners are also the same. So pre-COVID, the headliners were flying to different ships every 3-4 days, and you could catch a different comedian, a different 70s version show. It is the same 3 folks that are on here. We've got 2 comedians and 1 juggler / comedian who will be on the ship for a good bit of time. So that is one of the downfalls of coming all the time. Is it is the same folks there.
And you pretty much stick with Royal Caribbean.
I do. And, I've made the choice to do that at this point because their loyalty program on Royal Caribbean has been so good to me. I've compared it to a few others. And the one that makes the difference is when you are a solo cruiser, if you have more than 340 nights with Royal Caribbean, they will give you reduce the single supplement down to 150%. So for those of you that have looked at traveling solo, you know that it feels like it costs a lot more because you're paying for 2 people in that cabin. Whether you've got 1 person or you've got 2 people, you pay for 2 people. So when you hit 340 nights with Royal, they do discount that down to where you're not paying the full second person, but you're going to pay 1.5 of that, which really helps cut down on costs for those of us who like to go for a significant period of time.
All right. One other question, which I have to ask this time of year.
Yeah.
You've sailed both pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. How are the protocols now? And do you find them overburdening, or is Royal Caribbean getting it right?
I think Royal Caribbean is getting it right. I've heard, and seen vloggers talk about other experiences that are out there. I think Royal is getting it as right as they can. I don't think, Chillie, that there's any way to keep COVID off of a ship. Let's just set that expectation out there. I don't think whatever protocol they put out there that we're going to be able to eradicate COVID from the cruise industry. I think it's going to be here for a while. The policies continue to change. So I think it was 2 weeks ago they came out and said cruises 5 nights or longer, you have to do a PCR test pre-boarding. Now it is any sailing that is out there, you need a PCR test to board. So, we will be starting that with coming on. The mask policy, I cruise out of Florida, which is a little bit different. So we do allow vaccinated and unvaccinated folks on the ship out of the Florida for sailings. You've got designated spots that are considered vaccination zones. So you can go in there if you are vaccinated. They give you a bracelet or a wristlet that you cannot take off to designate that you are vaccinated, and then you are permitted into those areas. They have people watching. They will ask you to leave if you're in an area that you're supposed to be vaccinated for. And in those, you can take off your mask and, comfortably enjoy. When you're walking around the ship, you do have your mask on when you're out and about. If you're on the pool decks, decks 11, decks 12 are outside, you do not have to wear it as long as you're in those open air style environments. But that's probably about the main differences, I would say, at this point. There's still a huge push to washing hands. I think cruises have always been really good there. The buffet does serve you themselves, which is something that I hope stays forever, because I thought they probably were not the cleanliest in the world pre-COVID to start with. So I'm glad to see that change is out there. They're fumigating, so they do have fumigation machines on board. So after each show, for instance, in the Royal Theater, they do clear you out and they fog the entire theater to get it ready for the next show that is out there. So they're doing all that they can, recognizing COVID will still be around, but I think that the protocols are there and they continue to evolve.
I don't disagree with a thing that you've said. That's just amazing. All right, real quickly, let's jump over here in the chat room. Nikki's with us from up in Jacksonville. Hey, JJ Cruz is with us this morning. That's how I got to know Brandon is through our buddies at JJ Cruz. Carol Suter is with us. JJ says, do you see others consistently doing weekend cruising, and have you met weekend cruise friends?
Absolutely. So the one thing when you do a weekend cruise often is that you learn that you are not alone. You may think that you're special when you start out, that you're the only one who, has caught the quote unquote cruise bug, if you will. But as you start to come, you really start to build a weekend cruise community that is out there. So again, I go by myself oftentimes, but even though I may be coming by myself on the ship, I am absolutely never alone on this ship, because I do have so many friends. I have that weekend cruise community that is out there. I've got, 4 really close friends that are on with me this time, and we're doing dinner. We just grabbed coffee earlier. I saw them in the gym. You really start to build that sense of community with the others that are coming on board with you as well. So you absolutely have others that do the weekend cruise just like I do.
The couple other people popped in. Rayleigh Creative Travel. Carol Suter says, you live in the perfect location for cruising. She's jealous. I find it fascinating. I've never done a short cruise before, so now I got to start figuring out when they get back to letting me go. You notice I've got oxygen. So right now, nobody will let me cruise, and I understand.
Well, the thing I'll tell you, Chillie, and for others who don't want to come down and just do the weekend cruise, you can do a back-to-back still. So if you want to extend that cruise for many, many sailings, you can do it. If you've never had the opportunity to do a back-to-back, what a better way to do a 3-night followed by a 4-night and do that back-to-back that way. So you can still extend it for a 7-night, even a 10-night. If you want to make use of both of those weekends, you can still do that. They do all the PCR testing on the ship for you at that point. If you want to do the back-to-back, they can arrange everything for you. And I will say it is very different. I've done a few in the past where you have that traditional weekend cruise, which is more your party. You get your groups, your bachelorettes, your bridal parties, family reunions. Then you go to a midweek sailing, which is normally a more retiree crowd because you're just taking work days. Something that I personally can't imagine doing is just going on vacation Monday to Friday. So it's a much different style of cruise. So, you wake up the next morning expecting to have that high energy kind of cruise, and all of a sudden you go into relaxation mode. So it's really not a bad way to sail either if you want to do those back-to-backs.
JJ wants to know, when are you turning Pinnacle with Royal Caribbean?
Pinnacle is happening August 20th for me. So if you are on the Freedom of the Seas, I will be turning Pinnacle. We'll do a little ceremony here. I've got a lot of friends that are going to be joining me for that. People that I've met on these weekend cruises, of course. So very excited to finally be hitting what, once was thought of as an unascertainable, kind of hurdle almost, with 700 cruise nights. And it's not necessarily that I've been on the ship for 700. Being a solo cruiser, you do get those double points. You get 1 point for the night that you're here and then 1 point for being solo. But it's finally happening 3 nights at a time, I say.
All right. Boy, I just had a question too, and I lost it. Oh, well. Oh, I know what it was. One of the benefits, which I would think would be a magnificent benefit, is the crew. I mean, I love the crew when I don't really know them. You've got to develop some nice interaction with crew members since you're there regularly.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, I will say that when crew sees you coming on multiple times, all of a sudden the interaction starts to change. And I don't walk around saying, hey, I'm going to be here next week. Like, they just start to go, I know you. You were here last weekend, and weren't you here the weekend before that? And it starts to click. And now instead of it being, and I don't mean this poorly to the crew, a transactional, you're only there for one time. Now they start to say, oh, I can actually build a relationship with this person. I'm going to see them again. So they start treating you a little bit different. They start building memories with you. And I think that's one of the best things that, I can have out of this is the crew treats me. I mean, they treat you great to start with, make no mistake. But now that they see me, they learn your name, they recognize you. It's an even better experience that's out there. I am truly blessed to know so many great people on the ship now.
Brandon, I just can't thank you enough for being with me this morning. I know you're going to have a busy day ahead on your cruise, and of course, have a great time. And we'll do this again sometime. Thanks, Brandon.
We'll do. And one quick shout out as well. I must recognize JJ Cruise. You found me there. They have been fantastic in the launch of my new YouTube channel, The Weekend Cruiser. So if you haven't checked out JJ Cruise already, please go over, check them out. They are a wonderful group of people. I've been a member of the JJ crew for quite some time. They're wonderful guys doing bigger reviews than what I'm doing. We're doing just that weekend cruise special. But if you want to know more about all the different ships and places, they are a great resource for you as well. So Chillie, thank you for having me today. And I look forward to chatting and seeing people on the weekend cruises.
All right, Brandon, thanks. We'll see you next time. All right, guys, I've got a couple news stories that I need to cover this morning before we call this one a day. There's actually 3 systems weather systems to look at in the Atlantic and 1 in the Pacific. The Atlantic systems are, see if I can get the map pulled up here. All right, so now we've got 3 systems in the Atlantic. Boom. The one closest to Africa, of course, the one completely on the right-hand side of your screen. An area of low pressure located a couple hundred miles south of Cabo Verde. They're saying 30% chance of further formation in the next week or so. The one in the middle there, I lost my screen. So let me get the screen back. There we go. The one in the middle, they're saying also is a 30% chance. It's a small but well-defined area of low pressure located over the eastern tropical Atlantic, about 1,000 miles west of Cabo Verde Islands. And then the one closest to South America is a very little chance of any further development. They're only saying 10%. It's a tropical wave located over the west central tropical Atlantic, and that's probably going to go off into the heavens later on today. Now, the west, we only have one storm now, as the other two have died a very slow death, thank heavens. And this just moments ago became 11E, Tropical Depression 11E, which has maximum sustained winds now of 35 miles an hour, minimum pressure 1,007. It's located right off the coast, southwestern coast of Mexico. It's moving west at about 9 miles an hour, and they're expecting some pretty significant increase in that storm over the next day or two. However, it's not expected to go interact with land whatsoever. Now, we had 3 good stories about cruise ships this morning. The first Virgin Voyages cruise ship with paying passengers on board set sail yesterday. That's Scarlet Lady, and she sailed from the Pacific, from Portsmouth. The Norwegian Encore is slated to set sail today from the port of Seattle, embarking on the first of a series of 7-night cruises to Alaska. And the MSC Seashore has its first guests on board as she sailed from Barcelona, starting her European season before currently she's scheduled to come over here to this side of the pond in the fall. So those are the 3 good news things we have. The other story, Royal Caribbean, which Brandon mentioned in the interview, actually, just a week after announcing that a negative COVID test would be required for all guests on cruises 5 nights or longer from the U.S., Royal Caribbean has expanded the requirement to cruises of any length, beginning on August the 12th and extending at least through August the 31st. All guests sailing from a U.S. port on Royal Caribbean ships, regardless of vaccination status, will be required to arrive with a negative COVID test result. The new requirement applies to 3- and 4-night cruises as well as longer ones. The cost of the pre-arrival test is the responsibility of the guests. Results can be printed out or presented digitally upon arrival. The Delta variant of COVID-19 virus is surging in the U.S. with an average of 100,000 new cases per day over the past week. So they have expanded their testing requirements. So let's see if anybody else is still with us. Emily says hello to everybody. JJ Cruz here. Yeah, that's you. That's cool. All right, guys, that's going to wrap me up for today. Don't forget tomorrow on the Cruise Amigos at 2 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, we'll have Cruise Amigo Martin is on board the Scarlet Lady, and we're going to have Melissa McCormick Davis pop in. She is also on board the Scarlet Lady, and we'll get their opinions of how things are going with the Scarlet Lady so far. And I'm just tickled pink to have that. So that's going to wrap me up for today, guys. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And I'll see everybody. I'll see you actually on Tuesday. There'll be a show Monday, but I won't be here until Tuesday, or of course I'll see you tomorrow. So that's it for today. Thanks for being with me, guys. We'll see you next time. This is the old fat travel guy. Later, y'all. I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. Hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live.